About to get it. Let's start the show, papa. What's up, everybody? It's your man Pots and Pans. Welcome back to another episode of Real Chef Tips. I had something planned for today, and it was going to be an entire knife masterclass. Till I realized there's a few pieces of knives in my collection that have gone missing over the years, or they got stolen. Motherfuckers. But that's fine because it all kind of works out. A lot of you watching are just new to cooking and you don't even have the money to purchase an entire knife set, nor do you necessarily have to. A knife kit is an investment. When the time comes, you should spend a bunch of money on them because shitty ones just break down and they don't stay sharp for very long. There's a million reasons why. But a lot of you are watching this and you're like, I don't have a ton of bread to spend. I don't even know if I'm gonna like cooking next week. Jesus might come back and I might just give up everything to the Holy Spirit. Maybe I'll stop cooking food and start cooking meth. Not recommended, but certainly possible. Not to mention that when you're just getting started, there's so much to learn, and just like adding another 10 different knives, from a butcher knife to a slicer to serrated ones that are curved in different ways. Some have points and some don't. Some have scallops and these little things that create air pockets so shit doesn't stick.
3 days later.
Slicer, there's serrated knives, bread knives, there's paring knives, there's santokus, there's
3 weeks later.
Western, European, Japanese. What does it all even mean? I'm gonna break this down nice and simple for you. You really only need one knife to get started, and honestly 90% of the time I only use one knife too. What knife is that? Roll the intro. This is a chef's knife. It is technically the only knife that you really need. If you gotta pick one, this is the one that you go with. Mine, in particular, is a Japanese 80-20 knife. That's not super important right now. What's important is this is about 8 inches because it frankly feels good in my hands. You can find chef's knives that are 10 inches or even 12. Those always felt a little bit bulky to me and too unbalanced in my hand. You may be totally comfortable with using a 10 or 12 inch chef's knife. Me, not so much. Got these small Donald Trump hands over here. The most I could work with is 8 inches. An 8 inch chef's knife, not 8 inch, you know what I mean. With a quality made chef's knife, you can pretty much do anything that you want, especially as your skills get better and better. You can certainly chop and slice and dice and chiffonade and whatever you want to do. As I already mentioned, this is an 80-20 blade. It's just the way that the bevel is designed on the blade. It's very common with Japanese knives, and it might be a little bit easier to purchase something with a 50-50 blade when you're in the beginning and you're not really good at sharpening knives. The very first knife that I ever bought, I fucked up a lot in the process of learning to sharpen it and learning to use it. That's the whole point. You shouldn't go out and buy the best of the best because you're gonna fuck it up. Plain and simple. I guess I don't have to make that noise. A great knife that I generally recommend for first-time buyers is a Wüsthof Classic. It is a 50-50 knife as opposed to an 80-20. It's Western or European. I think they're pretty much the same, but it is a well-balanced knife. It's a little bit heavier. Again, well-rounded, well-crafted. It is a good starter knife because it clocks in at about $50, and honestly, it lasts you a long time. This knife is sturdy, it's well balanced, and it holds up really well, but it has a little bit of a bend to it. And I think that's really important because if you're only working with one knife, you want it to be flexible, not just in general utility, the amount of things that you can actually use the knife for, but you want it to be flexible so that if you have to fillet a fish, or if you have to get around bones, or maybe even take the gristle off of a cut of meat, the fat, the silver skin, you guys don't know about that yet, or maybe you do, in which case, congratulations. Having a flexible knife will generally mean that you can use it for any job in the kitchen. Additionally, I personally like my chef's knives to not have too much of a rounded edge, and I also like them to have a point, not like a Santoku knife or a vegetable knife or anything like that, because again, if I'm only using one knife, I know this is repetitive, but it's important. If I only have one knife, sometimes it's a little bit more beneficial to have that point, whether you are coring a tomato or maybe you're taking the eyes out of a pineapple or even some blemishes out of a potato. There's many reasons why having a point is more beneficial rather than having a rounded edge that just goes straight into the belly of the knife. But again, it's just personal preference, really. Another thing to consider when buying your first knife actually has to do with your cutting board. Your cutting board is another piece of the prep puzzle, and it's probably the most important. What I generally recommend is purchasing a knife that is no longer than the diagonal of your cutting board. Not only is this a safer practice, but it's also more cleanly. If you're cooking for yourself, it might not be as big of a deal because you're only using small amounts of the ingredients, but if you're prepping for a small party or you have a large family, it's definitely better to not only have a large cutting board, but also purchasing a knife that fits your cutting board specifically makes your prep life a whole lot easier, and like I said, it is safer. Whether you're a clumsy, big, dumb, stupid idiot, or you have a little kid running around your kitchen, the last thing you want is a knife hanging halfway off the cutting board. Other than that, I think most of it just comes down to personal preference. I mean, there's plenty of knives out there that are great, but I just think they look stupid. I don't like the way they look, I don't like the way they feel, and for that reason, I think that you should actually avoid buying knives off of the internet. Back in the day when I was still living in Pennsylvania, I drove 2 hours to the city, New York City, for anyone that was born yesterday, with two of my friends that I used to cook with, and we went to a Japanese trading company called Korin to buy my knives. We spent 2 hours in the shop just looking at the knives, holding them, making sure that we really loved the way they felt. At the end of the day, these are investments, they are expensive, and you want to be comfortable. Especially when you're learning new skills, you don't want to be learning on something that doesn't fit you. It's not only dangerous, it's harder to learn and get better at the skills, but you could even potentially develop small issues like blisters and that kind of thing. So it's really important to love the knife that you're using. What I'll do for you guys is include a bunch of different links down below, whether you're a beginner and this is your first knife, or you've been cooking for quite some time and you're looking to upgrade. I'll include some of my favorites and you can go from there. Fucking mosquitoes up in here. Move to the canyons, they say. In the meantime, I'm gonna work on replacing a few of my knives that have been stolen from me, at which point I will do an entire knife masterclass, everything that you need to know, all the different types, their uses, which ones are important, which ones honestly I think are a waste of money, and what to use all of them for. Until next time, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you already aren't. I really appreciate all the support. I'm having a ton of fun making these videos and I'm getting some good feedback. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you actually know when the videos come out. Share this with someone who might also enjoy it. Till next time, my friends, love and peace. Manyokis, chef out. I'm gonna hide behind